Internet Anarchist is a channel that is rapidly growing in popularity and no wonder why. It is generating millions of views every month and has nearly 1 million subscribers. Their videos consist of engaging animations that keep the viewer watching, and we will try to recreate some of them. We're going to cover the most recent video, and more specifically, we will cover this intro animation.
Nothing short of unreal, from spending years only streaming to 5.
And if you stick to the end of this video, you will learn how to create this screenshot peel animation that can also be seen in this video. All this will be edited inside Adobe After Effects, and all the elements that are used in this video can be found in the description. So without further ado, let's begin. Inside Adobe After Effects, I'm going to create a new composition and here set duration to 6 seconds and frame rate to 24 frames per second and click OK. And here in the project panel, I have imported all images that I'll be using in this video, and you can find all the links in the description. So first I'm going to place this grid on the timeline, and here I'm going to open transform and decrease scale, for example like this, and then I'm going to import this image, and here I'm also going to play with scale and position. And now I'm going to right click on my mouse and here create a new null object, which we'll rename to controller. And we'll use this null object to move all the elements in this animation. So I'm going to parent and link these two layers for now to this null object, and we'll repeat this process for every other layer that we create in this animation. So I'm going to move this screenshot here for now, and here at 0 second I'm going to create a position keyframe. And for example, 1 second in, we're going to create another keyframe, and let's go back to the starting point, and here I'm going to move this image out of the frame, and then I'm going to select these keyframes and press F9 on the keyboard in order to turn them into easy ease. Now let's also add a bit of rotation, so here I'm going to create a set of keyframes, and at the starting point let's set to -16 degrees. And also again turn them into easy ease, and this created this sort of animation. Now I'm going to create a new adjustment layer above all of these layers, and here in effects and presets type CC vignette and drag it on this layer. And here I'm going to move my indicator at this point here, and here I'm going to create a mount keyframe and reveal it in timeline, and also go to the starting point and here create another keyframe, and here I'm going to increase the amount to 632, and I'm going to again turn these keyframes into easy ease by pressing F9. So far we have this animation. Now I'm going to go to this point here and slightly increase the amount like this, and again I'm also going to create another adjustment layer, and here I'm going to type quick chromatic aberration, which is a free plugin that I will leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. So drag this quick chromatic aberration to a newly created adjustment layer, and here set the position to, let's say, 3.5, and because we don't want this effect on the whole frame, I'm going to create a new mask by selecting the ellipse tool and creating sort of circle over this center, and here select inverted checkbox, and here open this section and increase feather to, let's say, 54. Now at this mark here I'm going to go to my controller and here create a position and rotation keyframes, and for example at this point here I'll also create another set, and let's go to this point here and I'm going to add a slight rotation, our position here, and also let's add a bit of scale. So I'm going to zoom in like this and maybe move it at this point here. Also let's slightly decrease rotation. So this is where we want to end this moving of our controller. So I'm going to select these keyframes and press F9 in order to turn them into easy ease. So I'm going to extend this moving animation, so at the 2 second mark we are going to move this set of keyframes here. Now I'm going to import a logo and place it, let's say, here, and I'm going to go to transform, add a bit of scale, and let's move it here, for example, and I'm going to connect it to controller. And for this logo, we are going to create a fake 3D animation. So here, select this layer, and here you'll see 3D layer checkbox, and make sure that you select it. And this will allow us to create a fake 3D moving. So I'm going to only animate a Y rotation. So as you can see, as you adjust Y rotation, this will happen to the image. So I'm going to create a keyframe here, and this point here, I'm going to create another keyframe. And okay, so let's move this keyframe to this mark here, and here I'm going to add a bit of Y rotation and turn these keyframes into easy ease. So far you have this. And now I'm going to go to effects and presets and type drop shadow and drag it on this layer here. And I'm going to change a color to the similar one. Let's say this, and increase distance and also increase opacity. Okay, so let's decrease distance a bit and also add direction. So at 98 degrees. And here I'm going to time the Y rotation with the distance and direction. So here I'm going to create keyframes and reveal them in timeline. And let's move this indicator here and also create a set of keyframes. And here decrease distance to 0 and turn these keyframes into easy ease by pressing F9. And this will create this sort of moving animation. Now, as a final touch, let's go here and type glow and drag it on this Twitch logo. And let's increase glow radius to maybe 161 and decrease glow intensity to, for example, 0.4. Now let's animate the text animation. So here I'm going to type Unreal, and I'm going to use Bebas Neue font and turn this fill color to white. And here I'm also going to increase horizontal scale. They're a bit more divided. And here I'm going to place this layer below these adjustment layers and also again connect it to controller. And now I'm going to select this layer and here right click on your mouse and go to create and create shapes from text. This will allow us to animate each letter separately. So I'm going to open this layer, and here in contents you can see that you have all these letters separately. So I'm going to go at, for example, 3.5 second mark, and here I'm going to create a transform position keyframe for each letter. And now let's go back to, let's say, this point here and create another set of keyframes. And now for each letter we are going to copy this Y position value. So let's say that we want to move each letter at 258 value for Y. So copy this one here and paste it for each Y value. And now let's also animate opacity. So at this point, I'm going to create an opacity keyframe and here another one. And let's go back and decrease it to 0 for opacity and turn them into easy ease. And now let's select this opacity and open the graph editor. And here select speed graph. And here I'm going to only drag this hand, and by holding shift, you can create this curve. And now I'm going to copy this value here and paste it at the exact same time for each one. And also again, turn them into easy ease. And now let's create a slight separation. So for example, at this point here, this will stay the same. So let's go a couple frames forward. And here I'm going to select the position and opacity and move it at this point here. And now you can repeat the process for the rest of the letters. And this will create this text animation that you see right now. And I'm going to drag this layer below our logo. So it's not visible yet. So let's drag it. Now close this layer and here type again drop shadow and drag it on the layer. And here change drop shadow to this grayish color and increase opacity to 100% and also add a bit of distance. So 12 is okay. And here also type glow and drag it on your layer. And here increase glow radius to, for example, 28 or maybe a bit more like this. And that is it so far. Maybe add a bit of darker color. So let's go back to our Twitch logo and here move these one, for example, at this point here, and also for Y rotation. And here let's also animate the position. So I'm going to create a keyframe here, and at this point here I'm going to move this logo out of the frame. And let's also increase a scale a bit, so you don't need to create a set of keyframes, just increase it like this. And I'm going to also go back to our CC vignette animation, and I'm going to extend it a bit more like this. And let's also move our first keyframe at this point here. And now when this word animation is finished, make sure that each layer is connected to the controller. And from this point, we are going to create another set of keyframes. And until the 6th second, or let's say 5th second, we are going to move the controller to the right side. So let's go here and add a bit of rotation like this. And here I'm going to import this wooden layer that is above this grid layer, but also below our image, and make sure that it is on, let's say, this side, and connect it to controller. And also make sure that you reveal it at this point here. So cut this part here. And I'm also going to increase the main image here. So go and find it and also increase scale a bit more like this, and go back to the position and bring it higher, for example, like this. And now it won't be visible when we introduce the wooden layer. Now let's move controller even further so the head isn't visible like this. And here we are going to introduce the icon animation and also the text animation. So I'm going to add a slight adjustments to the controller. So at a 3.5 seconds, I'm going to select these keyframes and move them. So we have a slight longer moving animation. And I'm going to create a new adjustment layer here. And here in effects and presets, type CC lens and drag it on your adjustment layer. And here increase size to, let's say, 250. And this will create a similar look. And here I'm going to import this icon here and place it, let's say, here. And I'm going to decrease the scale for this layer, for example, here. And let's apply a drop shadow and increase opacity to 100%. I'll also increase a bit of distance. And here again, type quick chromatic aberration, apply it on the layer, play with position. So let's say 2. And here you can add here shift like this, and also apply glow and increase radius and decrease intensity. And again, connect it to the controller so that animation is also applied on this icon here. And here we are going to animate position. So at this point here, they're going to be out of the frame, and turn these keyframes into easy use. Also, let's animate slight opacity and move this 100% opacity keyframe closer so you get a bit of animation like this. And when it comes to the text animation, you saw previously how we made it, which you can apply above this icon in order to create the similar animation that you saw in the main animation. So for the second animation, I'm going to show you how to create a peel screenshot animation that you also saw in the intro. So here I'm going to select a new composition, and again, let's say decrease duration to 3 seconds and leave the rest as same, and click OK. And here I'm going to also import the wooden image as our background. And here we can decrease scale a bit more. And here I'm going to import a screenshot. So in order to create a screenshot animation, here in effects and presets, type page turn and drag it on your screenshot. And as you can see, we have this animation so far. Now here in controls, make sure that it is set to bottom right corner. And here I'm going to create a fold position keyframe. So reveal it in timeline, and at a 1.5 second mark, I'm going to create another keyframe and move this indicator so the animation is finished. Now let's go back and move this indicator like this. Now I'm going to go to transform and create a set of position keyframes, and also move the screenshot out of the frame and turn them into easy ease. And also these one. Now you don't need to move it this far. You can, for example, move it here. And also make sure that the back opacity is set to 100%. So you don't have that transparency. And so far that's it. You can also add a fold radius, for example, increase it to 150 and change light direction to 78 degrees. So you have this shade here, so it looks more natural. And that's it. Now you have this page turn animation that you can use for your screenshot. And you also have an intro animation from the most recent Internet Anarchists video. If you found this video useful and enjoyed it, make sure that you leave a like and subscribe. And until the next time, bye.